ever wonder how split, river, and bank sinkers are made and what they're used for? Stick around and find out. Alright, so we got a few molds, 2 do-it molds we're going to be going with today. Here's kind of a good look at what we're doing. These are my split shot mold right here. And then right here we got a river sinker mold from Do-It Molds. And it's kind of cool. That's what the inside looks like here. And then we got an old school Little Mac, and this actually makes bank sinkers. They come in 6, 8, and 10 ounces when you're making them. So let's get to making some. Alright, so we got some of these split shots here, and I'm only looking to make the big ones today. So I have a little drip cup here for my tray. I'm going to just set this over to the side here. And it's kind of important to make sure that your mold is warm. And especially on this split shot, I like to pour a little bit of lead on the outside to warm up the mold, because it really needs that warmth. So once you've poured them on there, you can just simply roll that off, let it drop, just like that, and then go to the other side and you can do the same. Just pour some on there, and what the great thing about making tackle is when you do this, if you want to warm up your molds, you can always put them in a conventional oven or on a stove top, like a wood burning stove. And what it does is it helps the mold to warm up so that you don't have to worry about the mold not filling in correctly. Now with this split shot mold, we've kind of had some issues with it not filling in correctly, but let's see if we get that. All right. And as you can see, what I like to do is since they fill in quickly, I like to move as I go. I don't like to just lift and drop, because what happens is sometimes you get too much on the top of the hole and it drips into the other one, and when that happens, you get split shots that are they don't look very well, because what happens is the cool time for the little bit that dropped into the next hole settles, and then when the hot lead drips over that, it doesn't give it a really good look. So we'll see how these turned out. Now you can kind of see here how these look, and we'll get a couple here, but there we go. You can kind of see that there. Some of them turned out okay, but like I said, we're gonna put these back into the melting pot because these need a little bit more time to warm up, this mold. So we're gonna just see about doing some big ones today. Got some drip action going here, so we're going to put that down, kind of press down on that so that stops leaking so bad. Hopefully it helps. It's still leaking a little bit, but we'll have to deal with it. Wow. Let's see if you can can pull this one out and show it to you guys. When you actually get one that turns out nicely, it's such a good feeling. Such a good feeling. So alright guys, so there you go. The split shot sinker. It's a simple sinker. It's used because it makes it easy to add or remove weight. That's why split shots are awesome. They can also be added to, you know, a lot of different types of rigs, but a live bait rig is a primary use for this baby. You can use it under a bobber or any situation where your rig needs extra weight to reach a deeper depth, which is pretty cool. Or a lot of people like to add them also so that their line or their rig can sink faster in windy conditions. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so check this out. We got this sinker mold that I was showing you earlier. Now we have these little eyes here. Now this is the river sinker, and these little eyes, they go right in to these slots right here. I'll give you guys a good look at that. You can see that there. And you put them in here, in those little slots. And these eyes right here, these eyes are so that when you pour your sinker, that you have a place to stick your line through. Alright. Let's see how these babies turn out. Alright. Remember, you kind of want to let them sit for, some people give it about 30 seconds. I give it about a minute. And it's important that you do that, let it cool off. Don't burn yourself. Remember to use protection if you need gloves or not. I use this to grab these pair of pliers here. And also, sometimes people like to have gloves to protect their hands from being burnt from the molten lead. So that's very important. But let's see how these turned out. Wow, that is super, super cool. Look at these. Super, super cool. Just a super cool weight there. Pulling out. The eyes stay nice and firm in there, and check this out. Even got the numbers on them, so you know what's a 3 ounce, what a 2 ounce is, and what a 4 ounce is. That's pretty nifty. So, what is a river sinker made for? Well, as many fishermen know, there's a lot of variety of sinkers, right? And honestly, you can probably use all sorts of sinkers for all sorts of different reasons. But the primary reason for a river sinker is this. You see the donut-like shape? When it hits the bottom of the river, this allows the sinker to stay stable on the bottom of the river, so it's more for rough terrain water. With these, there's no need to go with the flow, you might say. And what they do is they'll hold their own against the currents in the rivers. So because they're flat, so if you're on the coast where you get a lot of surf and tidal flats and stuff like that, these are good for that. The low profile and raised outer edges of the river sinker here It prevents them from rolling around like this or tumbling. So these are really good for rough conditions. So now that we're done with the river sinker, we're gonna go on to a more subtle sinker. Now they don't look subtle, but that is a bank sinker. Now this one here, we can make them in 6, 8, and 10s. And let's see how they turn out. Now while that's cooling down, I just ran out of lead, so I had to put some more in there. So I'm not going to get this other one poured on here, but we'll still get to see how the other two turned out. But while it's sitting there cooling down, I'm going to tell you a little bit about sinkers, about the bank sinker. So they're shaped like a teardrop, and what that does is it helps them to move easily through banks and surfs. And which is pretty cool, especially if you're straight casting, like straight out in front of you off the coast, or a slow river when catfishing. Because they roll, you gotta be careful though, because if you're fishing with these sinkers in rougher waters, it can cause your line to twist up, and you don't want that, especially when you're trying to catch something nice, right? Because you don't want to get your line all tangled up, or you might have a fish on the line, right? And because you're in a rougher water and the sinker was allowed to roll and tangle, you may get it tangled up in underwater brush or vegetation, and that wouldn't be very much fun for you, because then you'd miss out on a catch, right? So here's what they look like. This is how they turned out. Pretty neat, huh? I'll let these cool off and I'll show them to you. So here's your bank sinker. Turned out real nice. We got a little 6 ounce. And that's kind of what it looks like after it's all been cleaned up. You got to make sure you ream out these holes. You don't want them sharp, because if you keep them sharp on the outer edges here, especially right around here where the hole is in the inside, they'll cut your line, and you don't want to do that. But this is kind of how it looks like before you've cleaned it up. See, the hole hasn't been reamed out. It's kind of sharp right here on the outsides that you can see, so you want to make sure you shave that off, whether it's with a knife. I like to use one of these. I like to cut as much as I can off with a knife and then file them down, and that actually helps out a lot. There are tons of different kinds of sinkers, and I'm sure you could use this one for more than what we just spoke about, and same with this one. It's really all about your tendencies and what you like as a fisherman. Do all these have primary tendencies? Do all these have primary functions for what they're made for? Absolutely. But if it works for you in a different way, then do it. Who cares? I found that fishing is all about existing in the space and finding what works for you. So keep it up, keep your chin up, and like my good old buddy says, Joe, tight lines.